Hey, it is 12 noon on Friday, which means it's time for this week's episode of State of Real Estate. I'm John Carissimo. The show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate. Every Friday, 12 noon Eastern Time, we're live masterminding to grow your real estate business. So you're not just getting a real estate license, but you're actually able to do something and make some money with that real estate license, because isn't that the whole point of all of this? So what we're going to talk about today is choosing a farm area, and every real estate professional should have a farm area. Now, this is a long-term strategy, and even if you're just first getting started out in real estate, you really don't want to spend any money advertising to a farm area as a new agent, because you don't want to spend money in advertising only to make some mistakes and have to figure some things out. But you definitely want to pick an area that you want to focus and specialize in, so that way you're able to start focusing your efforts towards that particular area. But this long-term strategy of farming requires commitment, because, it could take sometimes a year, sometimes 2 years, sometimes 3 years before you start to see return on your investment, depending on how it is that you're farming this area. And if you're going to commit to some sort of area for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, maybe even forever, you want to make sure you're picking the right area. You're not just throwing away your time, money, and effort in this area only to give up on it when you realize it was a bad area to be farming. So we want to talk about today choosing that right area so you make a smart choice, doing this little bit of research before you start actively farming an area. I'm really excited to bring this show to you because it's all about advertising, marketing, and how to generate business and cultivate business within this geographic area known as your farm area. So super excited for today. I'm John Carissimo. The show is brought to you by Tampa School of Real Estate. You're watching State of Real Estate.
You are watching
State of Real Estate. Every Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time. Grow your real estate business. You're watching State of Real Estate. Hey, welcome back to this week's episode of State of Real Estate, where today we're talking about farm area, how to choose the farm area. So again, this is something you've got to commit to for the long term. You might get lucky and get some business right away off of your farm area, but chances are you're really not going to see a big return on your investment for some time. And that's just because it takes time to really gain that market saturation. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is we're trying to grab, ultimately best case scenario, 100% of the market share in a farm area. We're trying to be the only known expert in the area. So again, with the market share, we'll just kind of lay out some basics here, and we'll do it on a chart. So let's say we've got year, so we'll put 0 right there, and then we'll say 5 years in. We've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's our years from when you first start farming a farm area to 5 years in. Now, ultimately, when you're starting out, you're starting with nobody knowing you in this area. And, first year, you're a little blip on the radar. Second year, you start to kind of go up. Third year, fourth year, fifth year. And you're getting close to 100% of the market share. We got 50% somewhere around here. And this isn't any scientific or statistical graph, obviously, just something I'm putting up here to represent what it is that you're getting. But, in that first year, maybe you could grab 10% of the market share in your first year. But, we're not talking huge returns yet. Now, if you close one deal in your first year, you're being successful with your farm area, even if it is only one deal. Now, in your first year of farming, you can't rely solely on your farm area to generate business. Now, you start doing things like door knocking, cold calling, these more face-to-face type of prospecting activities, you're much more likely to grab more market share quicker and more likely to actually get a deal that's going to close right away, somebody that's ready right now. But if we're just talking, generally speaking, with just trying to cultivate that market share, maybe you'll get 10% of the market share in your first year. Second year, maybe we're talking 25% in the second year. Then third year, maybe you're up to 40%. And then, let's see here, what we've got. Fourth year, maybe getting up to 60%. 5 years into this, you're maybe looking at 80% of the market share. So you see how that grows. Now, it's important to understand this because let's say there is we'll say just 10 properties. 10 properties that we're figuring off of this. So if we close just one property this one year, let's say it's an average price of $300,000. If we close one deal in this first year, that's $9,000. Let's say in the second year we close 2 deals. That would put us at $18,000 closed in that second year. In our third year here, if we're sitting at, maybe close to 40% of the market share, now we're talking $36,000. That fourth year now, sitting at 60% of the market share. We're going from 9,000 to 18,000 to 36,000. And again, these are just generalizations, but again, to give you the idea of the long-term strategy that we're trying to build out here. And just going from 1 sale a year, so say there's 10 sales a year in the neighborhood. And we're going to dive into this math so you can figure out how many sales happen per year, what the turnover rate is, and all this information it is that you want to be looking at when you're choosing a farm area. But if there's 10 sales a year, so again at 10%, that's just 1 sale, going off of a $300,000 average sale price. Now getting into our fourth year, again, if we're getting now 60% of the market share, we're cashing in even more. So then it's, $54,000 in the fourth year. Now, in 5 years in, if we're able to capture 80%, if you stay consistent with a farm area, this is what happens. You get this upward trend of growing your market share. If we're here talking about our fourth year of this, now we're talking about $72,000 a year. And at this point, this is getting to where you could just solely rely on your farm area for generating business. Now, this first year, only getting 1 sale, that $9,000 in commission, you've got to do some other things to cultivate that further. And maybe you could get a little bit higher market share, again, being a little bit more aggressive with the farming. But the key thing is over time, we're talking about getting 8 times the return on investment in that fourth year. Looking at it now in the fifth year, say we're getting now up to 90%. And it's going to be hard to fully capture 100%. I wouldn't say it's impossible. You might be the only person getting listings in that neighborhood. But let's say in our fifth year now we're getting to that 90% rate. What is that? $81,000. And that's, again, just based off of 10 sales per year. Which, if we're figuring a 10% turnover, that's only off of farming 100 homes. So what we just went through there is we're saying, okay, we find a neighborhood with 100 homes. We find out how many sales there were in the previous year. If there were 10 sales in the previous year, we've got a 10% turnover rate, which means there'll be 10 sales per year every year. Now, depending on how much market share we have, tells us how many of those sales it is that we get. You've got to realize when you first start farming, you're not going to get a high market share. Even your second year going into this, it's better. You're able to double that efforts if you're at, that 20, 25%. We'll just call it 20% here, keep our numbers accurate. And again, this is just a generalization. You might be able to have a higher market share than this immediately. But again, the key thing is over time. Here, 5 years into this, we're talking about 9 times our return on investment that we got originally. And again, this is just off 100 homes. Now, if we get that $9,000 and we reinvest that into increasing the size of our market, increasing the size of our farm area, if we now go through and say we're not going to just farm 100 homes, we're going to farm 1,000 homes. So same figures here, but now with 1,000 homes. If we stay at this same rate here with 1,000 homes instead of just 100 homes that we're farming, now it is a significantly higher cost to farm 1,000 homes than it is just to farm 100 homes. That's 10 times the cost. But if we're doing the same amount of activity just at that 10-time higher level, we could 10x our return on investment. So now instead of just getting $9,000, we're talking about $90,000. We're talking about $180,000. We're talking about $360,000. We're talking about $540,000. $720,000. $810,000. No, I went a little too high with that. No, I did. No, it's hard to believe these numbers here. And if you're capturing that whole market, now it's difficult for 1,000 homes to grab that 100% of the market share. Maybe the turnover isn't quite 10%. Maybe the turnover is a little bit lower than that. And that's why you've got to be able to do this math. But I like to start with this exercise when we talk about farming so you could really see the potential that's there. I mean, on these 1,000 homes, so if we're farming 1,000 homes, even if we're only getting 10% of the market share, if there's a 10% turnover, that's 100 sales a year. So not just 10, but 100 sales per year. I mean, and we're talking about 100 sales. If the average commission for a $300,000 home is the $9,000, 100 times 9,000 is $900,000. So there's $900,000 of annual commission on the table with these numbers here. We're just now asking that question, how much of it are we getting? Now, you might not always get this high. If it's a more competitive area that you're farming, you might be able to not get past maybe 60%. Maybe you're capping out there at 60%. But hey, look, 60% of the market share even, that's $540,000 coming from your farm area. Now, you might say, well, John, why don't I just go straight to farming 1,000 homes? Why would I start with 100 homes when I could farm 1,000 homes instead and 10x my return? You're going to underestimate how much effort it takes to get that $90,000, even just that first year, just getting that $90,000. That's going to take a lot of effort. It's still going to probably have a positive return on investment, but being able to get to that point in the first place, the time, money, and effort that's required just to get to that 10 deals closed in a year, that's a lot of farming, especially in your first year. That's where you're having to do the most work in the farm area. And then as time goes on, even though your market share is increasing, it's more so about reminding them, just making sure they don't forget who it is that you are, being proactive to make sure they know still that you're the real estate professional in that area. So now you know what's on the table. You know what's out there and is yours for the taking, but now the question is, how do we pick the certain area so we can actually go out there? And how do we figure in the cost to just farm to 100 homes? What is that going to take to get even just that $9,000 in the first year, so we can maybe potentially turn that into $9,000 and maybe almost $900,000 in annual gross commission? So this is possible. It's out there. But now the question is, the real question isn't whether or not it's possible. It's what do you have to do for it to be possible for you. And that's what we're going to be talking about next, picking the farm area, making this actually happen. But first, we're going to take a quick commercial break. I'm John Carissimo. You're watching State of Real Estate.
Have you seen what's going on in Tampa?
If you're looking to get in on the real estate action that's going on in Tampa right now, we're who you need to talk to. We can help you get your real estate license, start your real estate career. We're here to assist you for the life of your real estate career. Give us a call. Phone number is 813-928-0106, or check us out online at tampaschool.com.
Do you want to incorporate studying for your real estate exams into your busy schedule? Now you can review the key topics you need to know to pass your class and state exams with our MP3 audio review. Simply pop in your headphones or connect to your car to reinforce crucial information while you exercise or drive. Listen to the first unit for free at mp3audioreview.com. That's mp3audioreview.com.
Hey, if you're enjoying the show today, which I'm sure you are, be sure to hit like, subscribe, post your comments, share with your friends and family. Thank you guys so much for watching.
You are watching
State of Real Estate. Every Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time. Grow your real estate business.
watching State of Real Estate.
Hey, welcome back to this week's episode of State of Real Estate. I'm John Carissimo. The show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate. Every Friday, 12 noon Eastern Time, we're masterminding live to grow your real estate business. And what we're talking about today is choosing a farm area. We already went through, before we went on break, the potential, the possibility of having the farm area, of maybe 5 years into this, in this situation here, maybe being able to generate $810,000, just shy of $1 million, not in home sales, but of gross commission income. So this is possible, but you've got to now put the effort behind it and also choose the right farm area to begin with. So when we're going through these numbers here, I gave you some basics up at the top here. Okay, we've got 100 homes with a 10% turnover. So we're going to go through how to figure out choosing an area for a farm area. So in order to do this, you're going to want access to the MLS. If you don't have access to the MLS yet, you're going to want to get access to the MLS. But ultimately, even if you don't have access to the MLS yet, it's just very basic what you need to find. You just need to find this data in there, and it's super easy to find. So what you want to look at, and usually when I'm looking at this here, I'll just go through and just click on sold listings. So you want to see what property sold, and then just look at the map and just start looking for clusters of those little red pins, those little red arrow things in there. Looking for a cluster of them. And that could mean one of two things. Either A, the lots are super close together compared to other homes, and that's why it just seems like these are so close together. Or B, that this is a hot market. This is a hot area. So there's a few things it is that you want to look for. So number one, always and every time, is going to be high turnover. You always want to be looking for that high turnover where the highest percentage of homes are selling. So in this case here, with a 10% turnover on 100 homes, that means there's 10 sales per year. On 1,000 homes, that means there's 100 sales per year because 10% of the homes sell every year. So the calculation you ultimately want to do, you pick a certain neighborhood, a certain streets. Again, with farming, you want to usually start small and expand it further because it does take a lot of effort to really establish a stronghold and start taking that market share in the area. So you divide the sales divided by homes, and that gives you your turnover. So you go back, look at the last 12 months, look at how many sales there were in a year, divide that by the number of homes in the neighborhood, and you could find this also through the system. We have a system in the Tampa Bay area with our MLS called Realist. I'm sure most MLSs have something like that or the same exact thing. And that allows you to put in, again, that same data you put in the MLS, but now you can see not just how many sales, but how many total properties there are in that criteria. So you take the number of sales divided by homes, turnover is what you're going to get. You're going to get a decimal, so it'll be like 0.10, which converted to a percentage is 10%. And again, we want a high turnover. We want that number to be as high as possible because the higher the turnover is, the more homes that get sold. So that's the number one thing I would look for. The number two thing I would look for is sale price. So in Hillsborough County, and it's good to know the statistics for your area, the average sale price last time I checked is about like $277,000. So we'll just call it $300,000 to keep it nice and round. But you want to know this average sale price because do you want to target a below average market? Are you going to be happy with a below average market? If you want to sell $400,000 homes, then find a neighborhood that has $400,000 homes that has a high turnover. Now, if none of these $400,000 home neighborhoods have a high turnover and the turnover is way higher in these $300,000 home neighborhoods or maybe a $500,000 home neighborhood, pick a sale price because you're not just committing to this for a year or 2 years. If you're looking for my recommendation, you're committing to this indefinitely. For as long as you're practicing real estate, you've committed to farming this area and being known as the real estate expert in this area. So if you're farming a $100,000 neighborhood, ask yourself this question. Do you still want to farm a $100,000 neighborhood 5 years from now? That's the question you want to ask yourself. Do you still want to be spending time and money and effort and advertising in this whatever sale price neighborhood? Ask yourself that question, because if you're not happy with the farm area, if you're not happy with the sale prices might rise a little bit, but if you're not happy with what it is currently, you're probably not going to be happy with it in 5 years from now. So don't sell yourself short. A lot of new agents say, oh, I'd like to start off with selling cheaper homes, then I'll work my way up to the more expensive homes. Why? That cheaper home, that $100,000 home, takes about the same amount of work as it's going to take to sell a $300,000 home. There's not different paperwork we're using for that higher priced home. It's the same contracts we're using. It's the same concept, a buyer and a seller. A lot of times these lower priced homes actually end up being more work. Maybe they require more negotiating power because now we're dealing maybe more so with investors than we are just residential home buyers that aren't as savvy as negotiators as an investor may be. So don't sell yourself short and think that you can't touch that type of value. Have some confidence in yourself and pick a sale price that you're going to want to farm. So the sale price is an important consideration. The third thing I would consider is your competition in the area. And now looking for this information, again, in the MLS, because again, you're going to pretty much need MLS to pull all this data for this area. You want to look at who's listing properties in this neighborhood. And this will tell you really whether or not somebody's already doing what you're trying to do in this area. If you already see somebody with 90% of the market share, where you go through the list and you see ABC Realty, ABC Realty, ABC Realty, ABC Realty, Tom Jones, Tom Jones, Tom Jones, Tom Jones, you're like, man, Tom Jones has got this neighborhood locked up. Why would you want to go up and compete with Tom Jones, who's already done a phenomenal job this, and just try to chip away at any little bit of market share you can, when there's other markets out there you could find that don't have somebody that has that much of a stronghold? So that's what you want to avoid. You want to avoid areas where other agents have a stronghold in that neighborhood. Now again, that would be third on the list, I would say here. The high turnover is still number one. The sale price would be your second consideration. And then, once you've got these things lined up, then, okay, let's look at which areas have the least competition, that has the least amount of people that have multiple listings in that same area, and let's consider those areas. And another one I would say to consider, and I would put this at the bottom of the list, is location. Now, you're a lot less likely. Say your office is, we'll just use the example in Tampa here. Let's say your office is in New Tampa, and you're looking at farming a neighborhood down in Apollo Beach. That's about a half-hour drive from New Tampa, taking the interstate all the way. So, are you as excited to take a half-hour drive, maybe an hour drive if we're talking about traffic, as you would be to take a 5-10 minute drive to something that's closer to your office, to closer where it is that you live? If you're not spending any time in the area it is that you're farming, you're going to have a lot harder time getting business there. So that would be the fourth checkbox, I would say. And again, you just want to go down the list. Okay, does it have a high turnover? Okay, here are the neighborhoods with a high turnover. Okay, what sale price do I want? Here are the neighborhoods with that sale price. Okay, looking at these, let's eliminate the ones that have competition, and let's pick the one that's closest, that I'm most excited about farming, that I'd be willing to jump in a car and be there for any appointment. I wouldn't think twice about getting in that area, about being in that neighborhood. I wouldn't mind spending time door knocking or holding open houses or even calling the owners in that neighborhood. So these are the things you need to consider when you're choosing a farm area, because again, you're not just committing to this for a few months or a year or even a few years. You're really committing to this forever. Because if you ever give up on this farm area, if you ever transition and decide, you know what, this area isn't really paying off, I'm going to go divert my advertising money to a different neighborhood, what you're doing is throwing away everything that you've already done to market and advertise in that neighborhood and starting from scratch in a brand new neighborhood. And how does that make any business sense? It doesn't. Now, you could add additional farm areas, but never throw a farm area away, because you're throwing away everything it is that you've invested in that area. And again, that's why I always preface this with that trend that occurs over time. As time goes on, your market share is going to increase. You're going to have a larger share of the market. You're going to be able to command more listings out of that area over time. But just moving your attention and effort and money to a new area and giving up on that one, you're going from where you might have 20 or 30% of the market share, now just jumping back down to 0% market share by shifting to this new area. And that's why it's so important to go through these tests here. Number one, is there a high turnover? Number two, is it a sales price that I want to be farming in? Because I wouldn't care if it's got a 20% turnover. If it's $100,000 homes, and you don't want to deal with $100,000 homes, if you don't get excited because on a $100,000 home, a 3% commission, we're talking $3,000. If that's not going to get you excited, then find an area where it's a $300,000 home or a $400,000 home. Find somewhere that's going to get you excited, that's going to make you hungry for business in that area. If your options are a $3,000 commission and a $9,000 or $12,000 commission, which one are you going to get more excited about? Obviously, that $9,000 or $12,000 commission. Even if you do more sales, if we're comparing a $100,000 property to a $400,000 property, you have to sell 4 times as many properties to get the same amount of gross commission that you would get with one $400,000 property. 4 times the number of homes. So how do we make sense of that? Well, if the turnover is super high, if we're talking about not a 10% turnover, but a 40% turnover, a 40% turnover on $100,000 homes would be equivalent to a 10% turnover on $400,000 homes. Because again, see, if we've got 100 homes, 40% means there's 40 homes selling a year versus on a $400,000 home with 10% turnover, again means there's 40 homes that means there are only 10 homes selling per year, but now times that higher commission rate, $12,000, gets us $120,000 in commission versus now having to go through 40 sales in that $100,000 market. So that's why the sale price is important as well. Look at what that average sale price is and make sure it's an area that you will get excited about. Because if you're not excited about your farm area, don't waste time in that area. Look for competition. Now this, again, it's lower on the list, but it's still, if you have 2 options available, one without anybody clearly farming the neighborhood where no one really has a significant market share versus somewhere where somebody is dominating that market and has 50-60% of the listings in that area, you're wasting your time. It could be used more efficiently and more effectively, and you get a much higher return on your investment, and it's going to be easier to capture that market share when nobody has it already. So look for the competition, and then again, pick that location that again is going to get you excited, that you're going to want to go into that neighborhood. Do you not like that neighborhood? Is it too far away where you're not going to want to, or it's going to be very difficult for you to get to that area for an appointment? Because ultimately the goal here is to get listings, and if we've got in order to get the listings, we've got to go on a listing appointment. And if this is an hour away or 45 minutes away, we're spending a lot of time driving back and forth between where we live and where we work to that neighborhood. So keep in mind that location as well. But these are the factors ultimately that you want to weigh in. Now we're almost out of time for today, so the last thing it is I want to weigh in on this here is the size of the farm area. Because obviously, if just keeping with this 10% turnover rate, if we've got 10 sales times $9,000, that's $90,000 of gross commission that's on the table. $90,000 per year that's up for grabs for listings. On that 1,000 homes with, again, just a 10% turnover, that's now $900,000 up for grabs in that particular market. But now, in order to farm the area, because obviously based off of how much money is on the table, this seems like the better choice. But let's go through some calculations here of what it takes to market to these different areas. So we're going to go through and split these off, the 100 homes and the 1,000 homes. And let's say we're going to do something like send a letter. And let's say that this letter, with our postage, we'll assume that we're able to get some sort of bulk rate discount on postage. There's every door direct mail is available where you could get, like, I think postcards for like as cheap as, for the postage at least, like 15 to 17 cents per piece. So that could definitely save you some money there. But on top of the postage, we've got to pay for the card. And let's just say it's going to cost us 50 cents. It might be more expensive than that, but let's say it's going to cost 50 cents. So 50 cents times 100 homes is $50. 50 cents times 1,000 homes is $500. So there's a much higher cost, 10 times the cost, to get that 10 times higher market share, that 10 times higher, larger market. It's going to take 10 times the cost to market to that larger set of homes. And this is where you want to find your balance, your medium. Because you're not going to want to just send one postcard and one letter, because you're really not going to get any business. Unless you get lucky, you're probably not going to get any business off this first postcard. But you send one a month for 12 months. Now we're talking $600 for annual spend versus $6,000. So at the end of the year, if we assume that it's going to take us 1 year to get one sale, can you afford to allocate $6,000 in mailing for that 1 year? And chances are, if you don't have any sales yet to reinvest in this farm area, you're not able to do that. Because this could potentially translate into maybe $90,000. Even if we only have 10% of that market share, that could translate into $90,000. And that's a huge return on investment, spending $6,000 to get $90,000. But now there's that question of, can you afford to spend the $6,000 in the first place? Now here, the stakes are a lot lower, because we're only investing $600, but our return is a lot lower. It's only $9,000, which is the same return on investment that we're getting. Because here we're, again, just dealing in that multiple of 10. So this is the same percentage return on investment, but we're starting off with a smaller area that we can afford to spend that $600 in advertising. Because the reality is, you're probably not going to want to just send one postcard a month. That's a good start, but now how else is it that we can spend money? So maybe we want to run, so that was our letters, our postcards. But let's say we also want to spend some money in Facebook ads. And let's say we're going to allocate $100 a month. Again, we take that and we multiply that by 12 months, and we've got $1,200. Now, this is increasing the likelihood that we're going to get more business, but we combine that together here, and right now we're up to $1,800 between the $1,200 we're spending on Facebook ads and $600 we're spending sending mailings. Now, over here, in order to reach that larger market of 1,000 homes, we might have to spend $1,000 per month. Again, times 12 months, now we're talking about $12,000. And every additional way it is that we're marketing and advertising in this particular market is going to help us capture a larger market share. So this is absolutely, if it's done correctly, if these advertisements are done well, then it's going to give you that return on investment. And even if it is just one sale, is it a good return on investment if we're spending $1,800 and getting even just one sale, one $9,000 commission back? The answer is yes. I would pay all day $1,800 to get $9,000 in return. Hopefully we'd get a larger return than that. Maybe we're closing 2 deals here by adding this extra layer of advertising and marketing and reaching out to people here. So now maybe we're getting 2 sales, and that's $18,000 on $1,800 in spend. So we're getting a huge return on investment in that case. Again, now we're spending $18,000 over here, but in theory to get maybe $90,000, maybe $180,000. You're dealing in these larger markets. It's harder to have that. Here we're just talking about getting 1 or 2 sales. Completely doable. Here we're talking about getting 10 to 20 sales out of those 100 sales, and that's a larger share of the market. So this is why you don't want to start off spending big like this, because again, you're not realizing everything it's going to require to really maximize this here. Now, maybe on top of that, you also want to do Google pay-per-click for this market. So over here with just these 100 homes, and you could go into Facebook and Google and just type in an address and put in a radius, and then you're able to only show your ads within that specific geographic area. So on Google, let's say maybe, again, we're just spending $100 a month times 12 months. That's another $1,200. Whereas over here, if we want to throw in the Google pay-per-click into this mix as well, again, we're going to have to spend a lot more money to reach that larger market. So $1,000 a month times 12, again, we're ending up with $12,000. And maybe you want to tweak this. And that's the benefit of this here. By starting smaller, you're able to start to see what works on a smaller scale. As opposed to over here, you're spending so much money, you really don't have any margin for error. Because right now we're talking about $12,000, $24,000, $30,000 spent versus $1,200, and $600, $3,000 spent. So you can see how that is a lot lower that we're actually spending in money. $3,000 versus $30,000. If you spent $3,000 and you only end up with one sale and you get that $9,000, that's still a good return on investment. Spending $3,000 to get $9,000. Again, we're closing this gap more and more and more of how much profitability we're going to have. And again, the big payoff of this is in the long run, because if we could just maintain this spend of $3,000 per year, but that second year we're up to $18,000, and that third year we're up to $36,000 based off of a $3,000 annual spend. Again, that's a huge return on investment, but the key thing here is the long game, the long-term strategy. And in addition to our letters, our Facebook ads, our Google pay-per-clicks, we've got to factor in these other things that put the cost of our time of holding open houses, the door knocking stuff, cold calling. Now, if we're saying that we're going to have one open house per month, that's pretty good. If on top of our one open house per month, we're going to try to visit all these homes once per month, we could do that with 100 homes. If we need to visit 100 homes in a month and assume that we're basically doing this across 10 days, let's say, really, we could even do it probably just in one day. We could knock out 100 homes, and that's what makes this so effective. But say we're just dropping in and popping through the neighborhood once a month. It might take us 2 hours to stop by 100 homes, drop off a little flyer for those that don't answer the door. Versus for 1,000 homes, now we're talking about a lot more serious commitment. If we're doing 100 homes a day, that's going to take 10 days of our time just going out there, knocking on doors, trying to reinforce all this money it is that we're putting behind it. And if you're not willing to do this stuff yet, don't spend the money in the advertising. Because when you're establishing a presence in this area, getting that face-to-face time of an open house and door knocking, or at least voice-to-voice on a phone call, by getting that established between the two of you, now these are good for reinforcing. This advertising that you're spending is good to reinforce your relationship, but it's very ineffective at establishing a trustworthy, good relationship in the first place. That's where you want to have that face-to-face and then back it up with all these other ways it is that you can make sure that everywhere they go, they're on Facebook, they see you. On Instagram, they see you. When they search for houses for sale, your ad's popping up at the top of the Google search results. That they see that you're holding open houses. Maybe that's what you're advertising in your Facebook ads. But that's why you want to start small. And you want to find this balance. Maybe $3,000 in a year, because that $3,000 in a year, we're not talking about too much money. What do we have here? 100, 150. So we've got $250 it is that we're spending a month. Most agents would be able to afford $250 a month to grow their business. But if we now talk about $1,000, $1,500, $2,500 for this larger market, sure, maybe the first month you could spend that $2,500, but then you don't get any return. Because even when you're farming this larger market, that time still plays a role. So it might take us still a year to start getting a return. And maybe once that year has gone by, we're starting to get more regular business off of this. But how long would you be able to sustain $2,500 a month without getting any business? Because either one of these, regardless of which size of the market, again, if you get business early on, you got lucky. You put yourself out in front of the people, and you're more likely, that door knocking and holding open houses, that's a lot more likely we're going to find people ready right away. But relying on the advertising and spending money, you've got to ask yourself that question. How long can you sustain this without getting any business? $250 a month, that could go a long ways. If you have $2,500, you could spend that the 1 month, but if you don't follow that up with anything, you spend $2,500 in 1 month, you're probably not going to get any business. And that's the way you want to go into this. Maybe you do get business, but again, you're getting lucky. You got to be conservative with your estimates with this when you're starting in a new market. So you spend $2,500, nothing happens, you're at $2,500, and now you've got nothing left to spend in advertising. But if you're only spending $250, the key here, because you're touching such a smaller market, is the repetition, hitting that market again and again and again and again. You could go on for 10 months for what it costs you to do 1 month for that larger market. And hitting this market for 10 months, you're much more likely to get business than just hitting this 1,000-home market one time. You do anything once, it's probably not going to give you a great return off of it. It's when you do that repetition, when you have again and again and again and again, and you're following up again and again and again, that 10 months versus 1 month here, that's where this is so much more effective. So that's why you want to go through these numbers. Start getting a plan for what it is you're going to do, and I recommend doing all of these things. Sending out something in the mail, having a presence on Facebook, and not just a presence of posting stuff on your social media, but targeting advertisements to this particular geographic farm area, targeting the Google pay-per-click for this area. Maybe you're not ready to spend any money in advertising yet, and that's good. I'd rather you start off and just do door knocking and calling and holding open houses in that neighborhood, but just focus your efforts to that neighborhood. And then once you start to, establish that presence, then follow that up with the advertisements, follow that up with the letters, follow that up with the ads, follow that up with the pay-per-click. Because again, these are good for reinforcing. They're not so good, though, for establishing. Nothing will establish a relationship better than a face-to-face conversation. Letters won't do that better. Facebook ads won't do that better. Google ads won't do that better. So establish that direct relationship first, and then once you're starting to establish some relationships there, start following that up with the advertising. And again, start with that smaller market, and then as you start to close deals and you're ready to reinvest more money, you get $9,000. If you want to spread that out across 9 months or 10 months, let's say, again, spreading that out across 10 months, and we'll figure maybe that's our cycle for how often it is we're able to ramp up our business. If we're spreading that $9,000 commission, if we're going to take all of that commission and just direct it directly into growing our business, maybe we're not going to put it all back into the business. Maybe we're only going to put half of it. So out of that $9,000, we're going to take $4,500 of it. We're going to pay ourselves half, and then we're going to take half of it and reinvest it back into our business. If we want to take that $4,500 and spread it out across, let's say, 10 months, that gives us $450 a month. And now, how can we allocate that across that $450 a month? You can see that up there. So now we could spread that out. Can we afford to double everything? Well, if we were spending, what was this here, 100, 250? If we're spending $250, yeah, we get absolutely. Even just investing half of that commission off of one sale, we could double from $250 a month now to $500 a month. And now not only we're not marketing just to 100 homes, we're marketing to 200 homes. And now marketing to 200 homes, if we still just have a 10% market share with a 10% turnover, that's now instead of just one sale a year, 2 sales per year. And now we close 2 deals and we get 18. And again, we could scale this out further and further, eventually getting to that 1,000 homes. But going through this process, you're going to realize some things. You're going to make some mistakes. You're going to figure out, and test out what works best and experiment a little bit. So start with, I recommend 100 homes and scaling up from there. Make those 100 homes where they know you inside and out, and you're basically guaranteed to be the one it is that they buy or sell property with within those 100 homes, and then double that out to 200 homes. And then maybe now expand that out to 300 or 350 or maybe even 400 homes, and continue to expand that further. But never give up on that farm area you originally started off with, and that's why it's so important that you want to choose the right farm area to begin with. Look, that's about all the time we've got for today's show, so thank you guys for tuning in. If you've got any questions, you're watching maybe the replay of this, drop it into the comments. We still will respond to all of our comments even after the live feed is over, so drop that in there. If you've got a question about getting your real estate license or completing post-licensing, or maybe you've got some continuing education to do, or maybe you want to go get your broker license, give us a call. That phone number is 813-333-2676. Again, 813-333-2676. Again, that's about all the time we've got for today. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you next week.
Have you seen what's going on in Tampa?
get in on the real estate action that's going on in Tampa right now, we're who you need to talk to. We can help you get your real estate license, start your real estate career. We're here to assist you for the life of your real estate career. Give us a call. Phone number is 813-928-0106, or check us out online at tampaschool.com.
Do you want to incorporate studying for your real estate exams into your busy schedule? Now you can review the key topics you need to know to pass your class and state exams with our MP3 audio review. Simply pop in your headphones or connect to your car to reinforce crucial information while you exercise or drive. Listen to the first unit for free at mp3audioreview.com. That's mp3audioreview.com.
Hey, if you're enjoying the show today, which I'm sure you are, be sure to hit like, subscribe, post your comments, share with your friends and family. Thank you guys so much for watching.
You are watching
State of Real Estate. Every Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time. Grow your real estate business. You're watching State of Real Estate.